Happy International Women's Day 2024. You know, I'm honoring the colors of IWD by wearing a shade of purple raspberry, if you may. One of the things I've been thinking about is my journey, my own personal journey. And sometimes I get emotional about it because it wasn't this clear. I didn't know I would be doing this kind of work that's so meaningful and purposeful, that I would be helping women find their voice in spaces where they feel invisible and where they are not heard. In fact, it reminds me of one time I was trying to present. I had prepared throughout the weeks, overnight, done my deck of slides, and then I go into this room and it was, a male-dominated space, and I'm trying to explain, and I think I knew my stuff, because I had practiced, rehearsed, and I knew it was a high-stakes meeting. And as soon as I just started explaining the concept and the ideas, a gentleman jumped in and said, "What she's trying to say," and I was like, okay, how did that happen even? And then I continued, then he would explain, and then I continue, and I was getting more upset and more upset. I was much younger and maybe not as wise, but I could even feel steam coming out of my ears. And I think what did it for me is at the end of it all, I was trying to sell a concept and an idea that I thought would solve the problem. And I learned a number of things in that meeting. Because at the end, they were saying, yeah, okay, we'll think, we'll see. And then this other gentleman says, "I have an idea." And literally, it was like copy and paste of my idea. And they said, yes, John, let's call him John. "That's a brilliant idea." And I was like, what do you mean it's a brilliant idea? I have researched, I have presented. What is it that I needed to do for you to hear me? And that's when I learned mansplaining is a thing. Many years later, having gone through coaching and doing a lot of learning around the behaviors of men, behaviors of ladies, and how in the boardroom, in meeting spaces, it's a competition. And as women, we go in to collaborate. We think we've done all the work beforehand. And then when we go in, we discover we should have had meetings before the meeting. So I remember, and I write about it in my book, Rise. And I write about the fact that I coached a client who was so infuriated about, she had designed and written her resignation letters and was almost sending them until someone told her, "You might want to speak to Dr. Pat." She gave me permission to share this story. And I write about it and I talk about it in my book, Rise. Or maybe I should quote, yeah? Because what then happened out of that is that I realized that a lot of us women actually struggle because of mansplaining, yeah? And so the question is, how do you respond? So she came and she told me, "You know what, I'm so upset." And I told her, next time, don't get upset. Just remember that a number of times the gentlemen have not seen a young female African woman who knows her stuff in the boardroom. So remember that you just might be the first book they're reading with respect to diversity and inclusion, and I dare say equity and belonging in the workspace. So if you recognize that, you won't take it personally. So I told her, next time it happens, because for her it was recurring, no? Every weekly meeting, mansplaining as if she hadn't said anything. I said, the next time you have to be ready. So I coached her through what she should try and consider doing. She also shared her thoughts. I guided her, she practiced, and off she went. She came in like this, she left with confidence. So we meet later, a couple of weeks later, and ask her, how did it go? She told me, "You have no idea. Dr. Pat, I should pay you more because you have no idea how much money I was spending on medical checks, stress, just trying to numb the pain of this mansplaining. First, thank you for telling me that it actually has a name, because many times when you don't know what to call your experience, you feel bewildered and lost in the wilderness. The The second thing she told me is, I remember the way I practiced. So John comes in, let's call him John again, and he's like, yeah, what Beatrice was trying to say is, and so he finished, and then Beatrice told him, John, thank you so much for amplifying and buttressing the idea I just shared. I'm looking forward to both of us working together to make this idea a reality. Everyone was like stunned, and she said it and with a smile and calmly. Because you see what happens for a lot of women, you end up being trapped in the emotional trap of reacting. Choose to respond, but sometimes we don't know how to respond because we haven't looked for the coaching, the mentorship, the leadership sponsorship that can actually help you move forward. So this International Women's Day 2024, I want to ask you, reflect. Where are the spaces that you're choosing not to include yourself? We're talking about inspiring inclusion, but maybe you're self-sabotaging and blocking yourself out of spaces where you can really make a difference because you're fearful of failure. You're fearful of the unknown. Guess what? Failure is part and parcel of life. Look at it as school fees that you'll have paid for a lesson you needed to learn. Secondly, fear of the unknown. Literally everything we do, we are surrounded by multiple unknowns. You get into your car, you drive onto the road, you're exercising a lot of faith and hope and trust that the other drivers are doing the right thing. And if they're not, you're watching out to swerve and to ensure you're safe. So actually you're operating in an unknown space. So why should the unknown and failure hold you back? My experience now in the world of work is that you actually need to take chances that will help you grow. My sister, wherever it is that you're listening to this, take a chance on yourself. Bet on yourself. Put up your hand, raise your hand and say, I'm ready to do this. I'm willing. I have high learning agility. Don't get trapped in the past. And for the gentlemen, be allies. Be the kind of leaders who open up these spaces. Because you know what? If half the team is not at the table, then you're operating at half the optimality of your business, your organization. After all, your business is probably serving a population that has budgets that are run by women, that the users are women. Why wouldn't you have an executive team, a boardroom that actually has a significant percentage of people that look, think, understand the product just like your customers? It's in your interest. It actually is. And when you think about inspiring inclusion on International Women's Day, I also want you to consider getting resources to accelerate progress. You know, what does that mean? Study, ladies and gentlemen. Study and know your craft so well that they cannot afford to ignore you. That in every meeting, Joanne must be there. Emma must be there. Christine must be there. Because the ideas that they bring to the table are exceptional. The ideas that move into action. You know, we just launched part of our work in West Africa just today. I'm so excited because it's been a dream for us to catalyze and reshape leadership across Africa. We've done it in East Africa, Southern Africa, and hopefully this year we'll expand into West Africa. One of the things I told my client is you have a bias for action. From the beginning of our conversation early this year to launching today, it's probably taken less than 4 or 5 weeks. And for me, that shows that this client is hungry, is humble, and is really invested in the leadership growth of their people. How about you? One of the things that I was telling them to make it, to actually get the most out of it, because I've seen 2 people go through a similar program. I'm the coach, I'm the catalyst, I'm the trainer, the educator. 2 people, same program, same experience. One of them comes out, launches like a rocket. The other one, I don't even know, they almost go into a cave. Why? Because you get as much out of anything as you put in. So